Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a bunch of friends gather together, hang out with one another, while I do the Kenny Omega point for no goddamn reason that nobody else can see. I'm Petey Rave, and I am not at home. What? I am here on location. I'll tell you where in a moment. But, of course, first of all, we have our regular people. We're a regular squad. We have none other than David.
Jodeci will be re-releasing one of their albums with a character from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on the cover, because the creator used one of their songs as an ending theme.
Nice. And, of course, we have Drew.
That's kind of cool.
That's more than kind of cool. And of course, we have a guest. I'm the guest. He's the guest on the show. I'm the guest in the house. We have returning for a special one-time episode for a fun time together.
So they say. I want to thank everybody for enjoying the Record Breakers podcast. Keep enjoying the Record Breakers podcast. Y'all know where to find me.
We have the one and the only. We have returning Patrick Swagger.
Hi. Let's see if I remember how this works. I have a haiku. How does this show work? I have no idea.
I'm just keeping the seat warm for you, Patrick. I'm just keeping the seat warm.
I am perfectly happy. Like, I was so thrilled when you stepped in to fill my, medium-sized shoes, because it's good that this went on without me, because life happened and life gets in the way of things. But hey, it's South by week and I'm in a new place. Petey's across the room from me in front of a very beige wall, and we're going to talk about an album of mine.
Yeah, so we're talking about music, of course. We're talking about an album. We're not talking about I know they kind of set things up for some albums. We'll go down and do that in the future. But we're going to have a special one-time episode with Pat here. He's going to introduce us to an album. Pat, what do you have for us?
So I'm going to start with how I found it because of a damn YouTube video. If you're a guitar player or musician, you may know who JHS Pedals are. They do a YouTube channel, and every video, Josh, the purveyor of JHS Pedals, is like, hey, here's an album. And this one was one of them, and I listened to it on a whim and ended up really enjoying it. And that's Phoebe Bridgers and her debut album, Stranger in the Alps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting album. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about some expectations. David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
What do you think?
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I had none. The great thing about the Record Breakers podcast is that I like when I come into something and I have no idea what to expect and what to look for. I like when we have a guest or when one of the other members of the team picks an album. I like that I don't immediately try and figure out what it is. And in the case of Phoebe Bridgers, I had no idea, but it definitely, upon some research, I would describe it as music for music critics. So let's go.
Yes. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Like DJ, I had no idea. Like I never heard of this person before. This was not anywhere near anything I had ever heard. So I was interested to hear it. I saw the album cover with a dog and a ghost. I was like, okay, this might be a little weird. It was a little weird. But besides seeing the album cover, seeing a child in a ghost Halloween costume and what appears to be a Shiba in the background, not a clue.
The album cover is cool. It is.
Yeah, it is cool. Patrick, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes and elements that you would bring to the table?
So, speaking in terms of genres, which are squishy and not always correct, somewhere in like the indie pop, indie folk, indie rock vein, there's bits of all three kind of mixed in, but it's at its core a girl with a guitar, but mostly electric guitar, not acoustic, and a full band fairly often, and songs that I would describe as sad but not emo, which like is a weird way of saying it, but like it isn't necessarily the most joyous of records, but it's also not like it doesn't wallow as much as some of my other more emo music does. It has sort of a different vibe to it.
Yeah. David, how would you describe this album musically?
As I said, music for music critics. After looking around, I saw that this was very highly received by a lot of music critics, a lot of music writers, and I think Patrick said it very well. This is an album of a girl with a guitar writing sad, sad songs about sad, sad stories.
Mm-hmm. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, the first thing that came to mind when I was listening to this album was just pretty. The whole album back to front musically was very pretty. Pretty singing voice, simple music. This is that sort of like coffee house, like indie pop sort of stuff that just is like you hear it and you're like, oh wow, that's really pretty, and like the music's kind of calming. There's some smart layering throughout this record, I think. And what I noticed that was really weird is at times the lyrics, like the composition of it, felt forced in a way that made it feel almost like less like she was making a song and more like she was stream of consciousness through the words. It's obvious that she isn't because it was by design in a few spots, but I think that sort of feeling of someone just sitting down and sort of going through what they're going through, I think was really, really cool. I'll agree with Patrick on this one. It does feel at times very, very sad, but there is a sort of like, I'm sad, but I'm getting past the sad, or like I'm in this weird longing like place of almost unrequited love and getting nearer to it, but like still not feeling it, like that sort of feeling at times. But it's very much I'm laying out what I'm feeling, because the next step is like, this is going to be in my past later, and this is how I deal with it in the now. Whereas like you get like, say what I like in emo music, which is like the Saves the Day era, where I hate everything, my life sucks, everybody's horrible sort of stuff that's very almost nihilistic at times, where this isn't. There's a sort of, it's sad, but it reminds me of the Butters talking to the goth kids in South Park, where it's like, yeah, it's sad, but like, it's okay to be sad because like there's happiness after it, and that's cool. Like, it's that. And I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah. I think that's where it works. I did just look right now to check the schedule, and it seems that no, Phoebe Bridgers is not at South by Southwest this year. She would fit in just fine over here, in a random coffee shop, like maybe over at the Kick Butt Coffee or the, but she did play in 2017, so.
Which is, I think, when this album came out.
Yeah, so very fitting. She probably did a lot of great networking back then. Well, let's talk about some of the key tracks. Let's talk about some of the songs. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks?
So I'm gonna start out with, if you know the story behind it, the elephant in the room of the song, Motion Sickness. It is one hell of a breakup song. It's basically fuzzed out guitars, sort of a driving kick drum, a little bit of a gallop in the chorus on the drums. But it is just a song about being in a shitty relationship and dealing with it. And sort of, again, David sort of said this isn't like an album of, it doesn't wallow. It's like, I have to get this shit out and say something so I can move on with my life. And that's kind of like the whole vibe of that song. The nearest comparison, the things that I love about this album, like it has little bits of, and this is going to sound weird given where her career went, very early Sheryl Crow, like some of Tuesday Night Music Club is kind of this vibe where there's like some folky-y, country-y sounds and what is kind of a pop record. And then sort of, but with the attitude of Liz Phair of just, the fuck you-ness of Liz Phair music, especially her early stuff. It's got really nice vocal harmonies in it that sort of build. A lot of these songs will start relatively sparse and, by the, second or third chorus are really full, very, instrumented and, add a lot of vocal density in terms of layering of harmonies. Funeral, which is a really fucking sad song about dealing with your own mortality in your 20s, which, I think everyone has one of those moments, usually losing someone about their age where like you kind of face your own mortality before you're supposed to. And it kind of really captures that struggle and dealing with that. It has a cool sort of very lightly distorted electric violin sort of filling out the space over an acoustic guitar. And it's a really nice song. And then Scott Street, which has Sproings in it for our not here but not forgotten friend Brett, who is dealing with life. But it has... I just love the song. It starts very bare bones instrumentally and then really builds into a really full-sounding song, almost to the point at the end where they're just adding sort of weird noises and samples to that kind of work and sort of build this really... full and almost slightly chaotic kind of thing at the end. But those three, but also like, I'm one of those nerds who, if I have the opportunity, I like listening to an album front to back. And that's primarily how I've been able to listen to this album because, you sit at work with headphones on all day. And I think it is an album that benefits. It's not too terribly long and you really benefit from like, it is a complete piece as well.
Mm-hmm. David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Patrick already mentioned Motion Sickness, so I will mention the other song that stood out to me, and that was Scott Street. Simply because I thought that the lyrics to this song and another song, Chelsea, were rather interesting. Thematically, the entire album has a very similar feel from start to finish to me. It had a very similar theme and feel and tone, and the stories that were told in the songs are where things got interesting. And I think specifically with Chelsea and Scott Street, when you look up the stories of those particular songs, they deviate from the norm a little bit, and I liked those too.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Smoke Signals, a lot of pretty strings, a strong vocal. It sets up the mood, I think, perfectly, as far as tone goes. There was also a bit of, like Twin Peaks theme in this for me, like in the chorus, and I'm okay with that. Killer, I have to bring up because I think the longing in the song, the second vocal coming in at like a perfect emotional peak, I think it was really brilliantly done and laid out. And then there is a 6-minute song to kind of close out this record before like a little 30-second reprieve at the end. You Missed My Heart. I didn't notice the song was 6 minutes until I went back to like say like, okay, what songs am I going to look at? And I looked and I was like, wait a second, what? Huh? Like there was one that was almost like it was 3 seconds shy of 7 minutes, and I didn't notice that existed. And if you can make me think in a album full of like 3 to 5 minute songs, the 7-second song isn't that long, it's got to be doing something right. There's a lot to that song in the way it changes and the way it layers, but I think it does it really well.
Yeah, those are some solid songs. I wanted to highlight a couple of songs. I know I like a good shout out to Georgia. I wanted to say at the funeral. We touched on funeral. For some reason, listening to that song, I kept thinking it was. I kept thinking of a couple albums ago. The closing tracks to Pale Waves, My Mind Makes Noises. A couple albums. Carl. It's almost kind of a similar subject matter, even though the one was about a family member, like an older family member. This one's about, I guess, like about a friend, but it for some reason it kind of my mind connected those two, in a sense. But I think those, and not noticing a 6 minutes song. Yeah, let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusive thoughts. David, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album as a whole?
I understand the appeal of this album. I really have nothing negative to say about it. The songs are well written. They are concise. The lyrics are well done. They're very heartfelt. They're very earnest. And yes, incredibly, incredibly, incredibly sad. But they're very genuine. You don't feel like it is contrived. Nothing on this album is contrived. It is all 100% very genuine, very earnest. However, I found it all to be a little overdone. It was a little melancholy in the infinite sadness, if you will. When I listened to this album a couple of times through, I found myself just kind of lying on the couch when I was dealing with maybe like a 24-hour illness, 24-hour bug. And I just found myself listening to it, and I couldn't really stick with it because it just felt like, one, the overall themes of the album, it kind of hammered home a little too much. Yes, this is a very confused person that is writing these songs, that is going through a lot. And I just kind of wanted to say, well, do something about it already. There was a lot of passive angsting and not a lot of action. And in the words of Brett, I didn't hold with it. It was not my flavor of ice cream. This was a flavor of ice cream that had a little bit of melatonin when I didn't really feel like going to sleep.
Drew, what will be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I liked it a bit more than Deej. I think that it was really pretty and it was really chill, and there was a lot to it that I think there is to unpack. It's something that, like, this artist, I'm going to be interested in what she's connected to next. I mean, one of the things I saw of her was apparently she's joining Connor Oberst, which, if you know anything about emo, you know the name Connor Oberst.
They have a band, they have an album. It's pretty good.
It's weird. A pretty vocal. Yeah, she's a pretty vocal and Connor.
She's also in an all-girl band with a couple of other sort of female singer-songwriters, and they have an album called Boy Genius, or at least an EP. So there's a couple things to listen to, and she's like 24. So
yeah, so she's getting started, and she has a good start, and she's really solid. What I will say about this that I thought was really funny to me is I usually try to listen to a record, and then I will start looking stuff up. And I was pretty much through my listen to the record, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to look up what this person looks like. And I usually have an idea of what the band or what the artist is going to look like in my head. And sometimes it matches and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't think an artist, their look alone has matched what they were in my head more than this has. And I was like, oh, she's probably a pretty blonde, sort of like indie California chick. And yeah, no, Pasadena, California blonde indie chick. Yep. Nope. Got it on the money. And
she's wearing a white dress.
It's a black one on the Wikipedia page, but
black dress.
But yeah, the type of dress you would think, which isn't to say that that's a bad thing, but it's like, it was just a weird kind of...
It's on brand. It's on brand.
Yes. Unlike Pale Waves, who I brought in before, she matches the aesthetic, unlike the lead singer of Pale Waves, in my opinion, who looked like the lead singer of The Cure. But the point being is that I'm interested to see what she does, because she obviously has chops. And while this type of music isn't really my everyday go-to, it is something that I'm going to keep her name in the back of my mind. She made an impression, and I would like to see what she does next, because she's good at making the musics. So I can't be mad at it.
Neither am I, honestly. Yeah. I'm not either.
I'm going to be honest. I thought you had said she obviously has chaps.
I mean, she might. Maybe she's really into like cowboy culture. I don't know.
Hey, we don't judge.
But, I didn't know you had noticed that. Yeah, I think this album has a lot that is really cool about it, really interesting about it. But it is for certain moods. Like it is for like it's not an everyday, every time listen. Especially me now, 35, going on 36, more into either the fun sing-along alternative of my childhood or fun pop music from Korea. That's my usual go-to. This is more of like, oh, this is 17, 18-year-old or 19, 20-year-old Petey that listened to Bright Eyes and listened to like, or I guess Bright Eyes probably more into my 20s, but listened to like the Taking Back Sundays, but even like got into like the other stuff like Stray Light Run and sings Constantine by Something Corporate at karaoke because he created that in karaoke.
Oh man, Andrew McMahon Live was so good, and so was Taking Back Sunday and Saves the Day.
But like,
sure they were.
Yeah,
Taking Back Sunday has that one really, really good song.
Sure.
I've listened to several Taking Back Sunday songs.
Totally,
but yeah, this is for that mood where I'm at, where I would listen to Constantine, or I would listen to Easy Free. Oh, the Bright Eye song. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but like those kind of like super like mellow emo songs. But I mean, not stylistically. This is not that same style, but it's that mood that I would be in. But it touches into a little bit more folksy and a little bit more being kind of like that. But I think I have to be in those moods to really get into it. But I do want to go back and explore this a little bit more and unpack it a little bit more, because there's something really cool about this. But yeah, last but not least, Patrick, what would be your conclusion?
So, like, for me, this was like sometimes you should take a chance on new music. I mean, that was sort of the whole premise of this damn show back however many years ago we started it. And this is not my usual. This is not my normal. I don't listen to a lot of like things that sound like this, but I listened to this record on a whim, literally driving home from work one day, and I was like, wow, this is kind of really great, and I really enjoyed it. So I figured, I had sort of two records in mind to share. One was the sad one was the ludicrously happy one about beer and skateboarding and hockey, but maybe that will save for another day. But I wanted something like, this has just been sort of what I've been listening to of late. And, like it is, I like that it's not emo, and I love fucking emo music. I listen to it more often than I should in my 30s. But like, I like that this is kind of that, just somebody with a guitar telling stories is always something that will work for me. And this has that sort of, vibe where it's someone, who has a story to tell and is, working through some shit with a guitar in their hands, and I can always kind of get behind that.
Yeah, that's it for our talk. Now we get to the main event of the evening. We get to our haiku reviews, as I actually look at the camera like I have not been doing this whole episode. Sorry, camera. I'll pay attention to you now. We get to a haiku reviews. What we've all been waiting for. We've summed it all up in poetic form. Let's get down to it. David, what is your haiku?
Can't hold with it, but she is super talented. Sleepy indie songs.
Drew, what is your haiku?
Welcome back, Swagger. Thanks for the pretty music. Don't be a stranger.
My haiku. Folksy, moody tunes. Stays deep in the mellow zone. Up in its feelings. See, it sounds a little harsher than I meant, but I kind of came up last minute. But Patrick, finally, what is your haiku?
Sad but not emo. Contemplative indie pop. The sound of feelings.
Yeah, feelings. This, of course, you can find on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers the home game. Playlist. Play Record Breakers. Playlisti. Play Record Breakers the home game. Do your due diligence and your due diligence. Of course, on that Spotify playlist will be next week's record. I don't know but this whole trip to South by, I don't know what I'm going to put up and what I'm recording and what I'm putting up. So just stay tuned to what will be happening next week. Maybe a guest episode.
We'll find out right along with you.
Yeah. So, just keep on the socials and whatnot. Speaking of, you can of course find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. David is at Call Me DJN. Drew is at XTruciferX. I'm at PD Ray. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for some of those shows. Rebelli TV on Twitch, or on YouTube, on Twitch too. I haven't done anything. I might mix up things up to do things. Maybe when I upgrade my CPU or something. But mostly just YouTube. You can find us where you find podcasts, everywhere. Subscribe, like, share, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los.
Guys, I've been doing a juice cleanse for the last couple of days. It does not make you poop, but it really makes your face break out like you're 14. It's weird.
Toodaloo. Like, what the... Man, cut this off. Leave. Let's go.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.